All right, then here we go. That's it. So, hello everybody. This is the second episode of my isolation podcast, and today I'm not alone. I actually have a guest with me. If you'd like to introduce himself,
Hello, it's me. It's Alex. I'm over here, far away.
yeah, he's Alex lives in York, and I live in London, which is very
I live, I live all the way up here. I live in the big church in the middle of town. That's where I live.
the big church.
Yeah, that's where I live. I live right at the top.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So if you hear any wind, you know
All
where it's
right.
coming from.
Oh Jesus. Oh no. But yeah, so Alex, tell everybody about yourself. If you've got anything you need to plug, any studio or something.
Yes. I mean, I'm Alex. I'm pretty much just me. I've uh, studied film and television, much like Connor did, if he has not mentioned it before.
Mm.
And ever since then, I've just been doing the odd sort of freelance work and just other bits and bobs surrounded around it. But recently, last year, in fact, with my good associate Joey McNamara, who was also my housemate, we started a studio called Shediness Studios. That's Shediness Studios. If you didn't hear it, you can find us. We have a website. You can find us and sign up for a newsletter. We do plan to upload some stuff soon, but right now at this stage it is empty. But we will be uploading stuff soon. And yeah, that's kind of really all I've got to say in regards to me. I'm here to talk about a certain Italian plumber. Isn't that
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Connor?
We were talk yeah, because today we're gonna be talking about the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I love how
The
this new film. Just to start off, I love the title of this movie because I love how it's called
Yeah.
the Super Mario Bros. Movie, as if they're going, yeah, that the live action one never happened. Like,
Well, yeah, but Nintendo just wants to pretend that that never existed.
yeah, like nobody except for John Leguizamo wants to acknowledge that that happened.
No, pretty much, yeah,
Yeah, but yeah,
pretty much.
Today we're going to be talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie because it comes out literally next month, which is crazy to me.
Wow,
Really, comes out. It was meant to come out April 7th, but now it's coming out April 5th. So they actually
they've actually bumped it up by 2 days. I
yeah,
can't believe it.
yeah, which was one of those things where it's like they must have a
They
lot of faith in this movie if
Well,
they
they went to the render farms where they rendered the film, and they found that they can cut it down by 2 days, Connor.
yeah.
So they realised that they could get it out a little bit earlier, which is fantastic news for everyone. I'm sure it will be a delight. The film.
I hope so. Anyway, I hope. Well, yeah, we've got our fingers crossed. Hopefully, but yeah, we'll start us off by saying what our personal history of like Mario and Nintendo in general. Um, so for me, always been a Mario fan. Like I've been since I was about four. Super Mario 64 was not only the first Mario game I ever played, but the first video game I ever played. Like period. So like, so to have that
Oh,
be like your starting point was kind of a unique setting for me because it was you seeing all these worlds. It was also one of the first 3D platformers to truly like revolutionized gaming in the 3D area. Kind of like how the original Mario Brothers revolutionized it with the 2D side-scrolling era of gaming. So it was one of those having that be your first game quite a was quite a treat. But I've always been a big fan ever since then. Like I've collected as many games as possible. Like I've played the sports spin-offs, Mario Kart, all the other 3D platformers. Um, Except for Galaxy 2 and 3D Land. Those are the only two games I've not had a chance to actually like put time into yet. Um, but yeah, what about you, Alex? What's your personal history with the Mario Brothers franchise?
oh man, Connor. Look, I remember I used to be stomping Koopas in the original Mario arcade game.
Mm.
That was a little reference to what Chris Pratt said
Yeah, yeah,
in his little interview. But no, I
yeah.
think I think pretty much the same as you, Connor. In that Mario 64 was the first one I played. I remember I remember being very young when I first played it because when did I get my Nintendo 64? Which I still have it actually in my house somewhere.
Nice.
Um, and I remember playing Mario 64 probably when I was about like 4 years old. Must have been
Wow.
quite young. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. But yeah, I remember playing that, and I've always been. I'm not. It's not that I'm. I'm trying to think of what I mean. It's not the. It's not as if I don't like Mario, and I'm not like. I'm just not as into it as much as I was into Zelda as a kid.
Mm. Yeah.
Like I'm a big fan of Zelda, but
Mm.
Mario's still like a very recognizable like icon, and he has some of the games that he's made that the series has made are fantastic. Like I love Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch.
Mm.
I think
Oh
that game is
god,
incredible.
that's such a good game.
It is an incredible game. It's so fun to
Fantastic.
play. And Mario 64 is a really fun game to play. Like going back to it is still like still an enjoyable experience, even like what like nearly probably getting close to 30 years since
Jesus.
that game came out. Oh god, that makes me feel old.
Yeah. So.
Oh well, but yeah, yeah. Pretty much the only one I haven't played really is Sunshine
Oh
because I
wow.
didn't have a GameCube.
Oh
But
damn. You missed out big
I've
time,
heard it's
man.
good. I've heard it's good. I've heard it's good. But
S-
I've played pretty much every other like 3D Mario at least.
hmm. Well, I mean, you missed out on the GameCube in general. Like that era was the
I
game.
did. I did. I know, but I had
GameCube
an
was.
Xbox. I had the original Xbox.
Mm.
Didn't even have a PS2. I had an Xbox.
Oh no, not even the PS2.
I did get a PS2 eventually because
Oh,
it is a fantastic console
oh
and it's got
yeah.
like some of my favorite games of all time on it.
Mhm.
But
Oh yeah. Like Ratchet and Clank and well, and the Grand Theft Auto games for that system as well, and a
oh
ton of
mate,
others.
GTA was an
Oh yeah,
institution.
GTA was
That
like the shit back. Well, it still is,
that
but
was that was like the thing that was like the thing that everybody was into
mm,
at school when I was a kid. Like
yeah,
and it was a time when GTA was being released consistently. Granted, it was just the same game over and over again, just in different places. But
mm,
yeah, like that was like the game that people played. Everybody played it, and
mm,
yeah. But yeah, oh god.
mm. And you're
Well,
also. Oh, sorry, you go
oh,
ahead.
I was going to say, we're getting distracted here. We're talking about Grand Theft Auto. This is not a Grand Theft Auto podcast. This is a Mario Brothers podcast.
The Mario Brothers. Oh
Oh,
man, but yeah, but you're also a fan of animation as well, which is another reason why I wanted to have you on because I thought
yes, yes.
talking about this and
You
talking like animation in general. So like
you you could say I'm a toonhead.
so like we like what was it about animation that you love the most about it? Like what is it that gets you invested in animation?
When you say invested in animation, do you mean is in like what gets me hooked into watching in something animated, or
Yeah.
do you mean like why? Yeah, all right. I
Mm,
think. Well, first of all, kind of a little history in that animation is something that I was obviously very interested in, even as a young child. I know the kids watch cartoons a lot as a kid, but I was like obsessed with them as a kid.
mm,
Like pretty much all the way through, even through to like even still now, I'm still pretty obsessed with cartoons because I just think that they're like I've got such a massive appreciation for what I think is like an incredibly difficult art form to
mm,
create anything in, and it is weird to think how much animation has changed since even when I was a kid.
mm,
It's changed drastically since then. But I think in terms of what makes me invested in an animated thing, I think it's the same. I think there's two key distinctions for me. One is the story being told, or the
mm,
characters that are released that are on screen. They're very important to me. If they're interesting and they're like engaging, I'm already invested in it. But I also really like good visuals, like good color palettes, like
mm,
not boring colors unless it's the point of the film. Depends on what film you're watching, really. But also, just like I really like smooth animation. I like animation that feels kinetic and feels like the characters are actually alive, even if it's exaggerated. They're not just standing there doing nothing. Like the best example I can think of what I think is not interesting animation is Family Guy.
yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
But Family Guy is a series that produces like over 30 episodes in a year, and
Mm,
making animation is like really difficult.
yeah. But then again, I mean,
And
you have
yeah,
like Bob's Burgers and stuff, which Family Guy is like ripped into multiple times.
yeah. I mean, it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot now because obviously now
Mm,
this is going to get a bit technical. So if it goes over anyone's heads, I do apologize. But
mm,
well, back in like when say like The Simpsons first started, it was all like 2D hand drawn animation basically on cells. But
yeah,
now, not only is it done on computers, but now they've got rigging, so they use like basically like a skeleton
yeah,
mapped over the characters' bodies to do the movements
mm,
a little bit easier. But it does mean that the animation in general is a lot less exaggerated than it used to be from
yeah.
like even like 20 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, 2D animation is becoming a lot more like 3D animation,
Yeah.
but 3D animation is actually becoming a lot more like 2D animation. So it's kind of like they're sort of becoming there's like a middle ground that's sort of appearing between the two. I think.
Mm. Well, I think that's
And the
good.
classic,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's good though because I feel like 2D is so important for animation, and I think it's a good art form to keep around.
yeah. Well, I 100% agree with that. I mean, the most recent example I can think, well, there's actually the most recent example I can think of is Puss in Boots, the
Mm,
most recent Puss in Boots film, but
yeah,
also Spider Verse,
yeah,
where during the action scenes they use like principles of 2D, like using like animation that has like anticipation and weight and movement to make the action feel more weighted,
mm,
and that's not something you usually get in previous 3D animated
mm.
films because they relied on motion capture technology. But that's changed drastically now to where they're just doing it all pretty much like they used to do like 30 years ago in 2D animation, and it's incredible that's kind of where 3D animation's gotten to. Yeah,
That's really good though. But yeah, it is good that like they've gone to that kind of middle ground because I've not seen Puss in Boots yet. I really need to. Uh,
you should. If anyone's listening to this and they've not seen the new Puss in Boots film, watch it.
yeah,
It's so good.
yeah.
It's an incredible film.
I know Shrek's only in it for like a second, but I'll do it for Shrek. I'll do it for Shrek.
Yeah, he's in it for like a brief second, but
Yeah,
he doesn't like get a voice cameo or anything like
yeah,
that. Sorry, my eyes was busy that day.
yeah. So we've talked. So you've talked about your love for animation and everything, and your personal history of Mario in general, or Mario, as some people like to,
That Mario brother.
the Mario Brothers.
If that's how he sounds.
Before we talk about this new film, though, have you seen the live action one, the 1993 one, or?
Yes, I have actually. I
Mm.
have actually.
So we'll
It
talk
is.
about yeah, we'll talk about that first. Like, what's your opinion on that film?
I mean, it's a film, all right.
Ugh.
Like I think if you're looking at it from the perspective of like you want it to be an authentic adaptation of the video games, of course it's not that at all.
Mm,
But if you're like me and just watching it because it's a classic so bad it's good film,
mm,
it's an enjoyable experience.
mm,
I do. It's a film that I can understand a lot of people got very frustrated with. And if you were a kid in the '90s who
mm,
grew up playing the Mario Brothers video games and then watched that film and then was like, that was nothing like the games, and I'm so angry.
mm,
I can understand why you probably don't like it, but
yeah.
I don't have that nostalgia for it. So when I first watched it, when I was like, I don't know, in my teenage years, I was like, this film's so dumb, but I don't really care because it's kind of just so stupid, and
Mm,
which is fine. I think that's okay. If that's the way the adaptation goes, it's just the way it goes.
yeah. I think I used to collect the official Nintendo magazines, the ONMs
Oh yeah.
back in the day, and that's how I found out about. Oh, actually, no, I think it was before that. Actually, it was when around there was a lot of like reboots and stuff that were happening around that time, like Indiana Jones 4 and Die Hard 4 and stuff like that was coming out. A lot of like
Oh
books and stuff
yeah.
being adapted. So I remember
Yeah, they did
thinking
make Die
like,
Hard 4, didn't they?
yeah.
That was weird.
And then I remember thinking, oh, will they ever do a Mario Brothers movie? So I remember like looking it up once, and then I accidentally like came along the live action one, and at first I thought it was like a fake, like somebody like photoshopped a fake poster or something. I was like, that's not a Mario, that's not real. And then I used to collect the O&M magazines, and they did a special edition entirely dedicated to Mario, and that was when they did a section about the movie, and I was like, oh no, this was real. um,
It is real.
so I
It is
looked up
real.
the trailer on YouTube, watched it, and I was like, this looks terrible. And then someone had actually uploaded the whole thing on YouTube, but in multiple parts, because this was back in like 2008 where you could get away with doing that.
We do not
Yeah,
condone we
yeah,
do not condone
yeah.
watching
We don't condone that.
films.
Uh,
We don't condone watching films illegally on YouTube. Wink. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Connor.
So I remember me and my siblings were watching it, and I was just like, "What is this? This is terrible." I hated it so much. I've tried rewatching it again, but I think the problem with me is the fact that it generally just does not feel like a Mario Brothers movie. If for me, it comes across a lot like it's kind of like the Michael Bay Transformers films, where they're trying to be like the big kid version. They're trying to be like where the more grown up adult version, where it almost feels like it's embarrassed to be like associated with the game that it's based on. So it's trying to be like we're going to be like the big kid version. We're going to have like sex and what I mean, like stuff like
Yeah, you mean
yeah,
yeah, I get what you mean.
yeah,
Adapting children's medium to try to make it appeal to,
mm,
like, a larger audience by
yeah,
and instead of making it just like a good story, they've just used the very basic elements of, like,
mm,
yeah, like you said, like sexual content or, like,
yeah,
violence or something to make it appeal to a wider audience,
yeah, and giving Mario and Luigi
which is always a
covers.
problem. Yeah. But I've got to say, I really love the bit when Dennis Hopper as Bowser, or King Koopa, sorry, um, turns the guy into a monkey and says, "Look, monkey." That scene's great. Okay,
Yeah,
look, that's great.
yeah,
Bob Hoskins, I'll tell you now, he did the best he could with his performance. He's a professional actor, or was rest in peace, Bob Hoskins.
rest
He
in
was. He was a true actor through and through, and
peace.
he did the best with what he got.
Yeah. Well, it was weird because I saw that video about all the previous scripts for the live action one. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that. Um,
Yeah, I did. I watched a
yeah,
bit of it. I mean, I can see what they were going for back in those old ideas. I mean,
yeah,
that was just what kind of films were popular at the time, around in that era.
yeah. Because if people who don't know, originally the live action one was meant to. There was a script by. Well, the first draft of the script was written by the writer who wrote Rayman, but that's never made. That's never surfaced online, and he never actually finished it. The studio went up to him and went, "Oh, you've got to finish this now." And he's like, he was on the last page, and they literally just ripped it out of his hands and took it, and then then they gave it to two others. I'm trying to um I'm trying to find. I've got the writers written down. Jenny Wynn and Thomas S. Parker. They're the
Yeah,
ones who wrote the this another script you can find on the Mario Brothers movie archive website. Um,
yeah.
where that's a bit more fantasy, a bit more elements of fairy tale. They
They were
basically they
going for
basically
that kind of like a labyrinth sort of vibe to it, from
yeah.
what it looked like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I was reading that I've read that version before, like a half of the script, that script anyway. And I was thinking like this would have been like much I feel like if that was the version that came out, I think most it would probably would have been received a bit more seen a bit like Tim Burton's Batman in a way where it's it's not completely like the source material, but it's got enough of that familiarity to the point where I feel like fans can watch that and think, oh yeah, I appreciate that for what it is.
Hmm.
Um because obviously there's like a lot and there's a lot of so much interesting things about that script, like the fancy elements, like the effects, for example. How would they do that kind of thing? Is they're trying to be not completely faithful, but a little bit more faithful than what we actually end up getting. Like how Goombas are in that script. They've still got like arms and legs, but their heads, I think, in the script are described um more like how they would look in the game. So it's a bit like would they have used like prosthetics, masks, makeup, or how Bowser would have looked. Would he have been more like how he would not have looked how Dennis Hopper looked in the final version.
Yeah.
Um, like how this film would have felt like. And I feel like that's actually one of the main reasons why I feel like you can't do a live action Mario Brothers movie today. I feel like they've missed their opportunity because because I feel like if you did one now, my argument was always for if they ever did it again, it would have to have been animated um, if you did try and do a live action version now, most of it would be animated anyways. Like the Mushroom Kingdom would be CG to death. The
Hmm.
Goombas, Koopa Troopers, Bowser would be like motion captured and just would have kind of lose that kind of. It would have been one of those things where it's like if you're going to animate most of it, you may as well have just make a full animated movie, and that's what they've done. That's why I don't think a live action one would have worked today. I think if anything, the 80s and 90s were the perfect time to do it, and they kind of missed their shot.
I think as well, like to make something like a video game in general live action, you might as well do it based off one of the ones that actually has like realistic looking
Hmm.
people in it. I'm
Yeah,
just saying, like Mario's always been a cartoony character.
yeah,
Like if you've ever seen, have you ever seen like Miyamoto's original like sketches of Mario from like even like way back in the 80s? Like
yeah.
he's a cartoon character. Well, yeah, he's like a comic
Hmm.
character. So it never really made sense. Doesn't really make sense to make the character live action because you can't replicate that kind of style
Hmm.
uh, to that extent. You might as well just have them be just yeah. You might as well just have them be an animated film.
Hmm.
I mean, you'd end up with a result like the Popeye film from the 80s. Like
Hmm.
it would just be so cartoonish and ridiculous that it would be kind of just awful, unfortunately. But that's fine. I mean, we're getting a new Mario Brothers film soon.
Yeah, next month.
Wow,
That's
next
news.
month.
That
Wow, it's
it's gonna
coming.
be, and yeah, so I guess we should probably start talking about the new one
Yes, we should.
now.
We should.
Yeah,
We should talk
so
about the big elephant in the room called the Super Mario Brothers
yeah,
movie.
the Mario Bros. Movie. So
It is the
so this movie, apparently, according to Chris Amilladeri, who's the head of Illumination, it's taken them like 7 years to make this, which
hmm.
for me is crazy when you think about it. Like, I know anime movies in general take ages to make, anyways, but even by like Illumination standards, like that's still quite a long time. Like, um, because obviously, the elephant in the room is that Illumination have always kind of been known as the cheap guys, the ones that we make anime movies for cheap, and
Yeah.
we just put
Let's
more.
just say
Yeah,
the track record for films has not been a very
yeah,
yeah, it's not been
best.
great, in my opinion. I mean, I can understand some people probably like the Despicable Me films and
Mm,
like the little funny minions,
yeah,
but they're not for me. Like, once again, I think that just completely passed me because obviously, like I was an adult when like I was like near enough an adult age when like those films were coming out, and it's
mm,
just like nah. No, yeah, but yeah,
yeah. And well, Illumination was always an odd one, but I think I do think that a lot of why because obviously they're not the only ones that like walked up to like Miyamoto and said we want to do a Mario Brothers movie. There's obviously been like other people that other animated studios in general that have done that. Like Sony tried that back in what was it? When did the Sony hacks happen again? Was that 2014? I think.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, because I remember one of the email that leaked was them discussing about doing an animated Mario Brothers movie.
I think
And
Nintendo's wanted to do it for a while.
yeah,
They
mm,
Nintendo in general has been wanting to branch out to more than just like video games with a lot of its
mm,
characters, and I think that's why now there's like a theme park. It's like a
yeah,
Mario Brothers theme park,
mm,
which is crazy to think of.
oh
But
god,
yeah, no, they've wanted to branch out for ages, and now they've finally gotten to the stage where everything just seems feasible because it's the right time,
yeah.
as it were.
Well, I think Miyamoto in an interview said he wanted to do ones back like during the Wii days when they were like putting their old games on the virtual console. Apparently, that was his inspiration for
Yeah,
wanting to make another Mario Brothers movie, which is crazy that he's been thinking about it for that long. But I guess they were a bit like wary about it because always Nintendo, like Nintendo was always wary after the live action one. Have always been a bit wary about adaptations. There was that rumor years ago about a Netflix live action Zelda series.
oh yes, I remember
Yeah,
that.
and then obviously Nintendo claimed ages ago, like after that, oh yeah, that was a fake rumor. Turns out that was actually true, but because it
Yeah, that
leaked,
doesn't surprise me.
though because it leaked, they cancelled it last minute because that's how their deals kind of work. Their deals,
Yeah, if it's
yeah,
leaked, then it becomes like yeah, like
yeah,
no, we're not making this anymore. Plus, I think a live action Zelda series would not have been the way to go. Once again,
yeah,
There's only one studio that I think can make a good Zelda film, and that's Studio Ghibli.
hmm. Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
there's the fan made Ghibli trailer
yeah,
for Ocarina of Time.
but it's not just because of their it's not just because of the art style.
Yeah,
It's also because Studio Ghibli captures that kind of whimsical fantasy element that's
mm,
also in Zelda. Like they kind of go hand in hand with each other because they kind of both have a similar sort of origin point through these two creators who spent their youths in the Japanese
mm,
countryside, and that's where they got their inspiration for their art from. And I think they kind of meld together really well. So that's why I think Ghibli is like would be the perfect thing for a Zelda film, but
mm.
it's probably never going to happen.
Probably not. I think,
Oh well, oh well.
yeah, well,
That's not perfect, Connor. It's fine.
oh dear. Oh well. But yeah, so that's Illumination was always kind of it was a shock at first, but I think a lot of it could come down to I guess control maybe because I feel like because again like we've had Sony, but we've also there was apparently Blue Sky approached them to do a Mario Brothers movie, which is bizarre because Chris Military actually was the head of was created Blue Sky Studios and then he left to do Illumination. It's a bit weird how his old studio allegedly went up to Nintendo and asked them to if they could make a Mario Brothers movie, and clearly Nintendo said no. probably
Yeah,
because like at the time they were all known as the Ice Age guys. I'm guessing this was probably before the Peanuts movie they made came out.
probably yeah,
Yeah.
probably yeah.
Mm.
I mean, Blue Sky Studios it doesn't even exist anymore, does
Oh
it?
no, yeah, Disney shut that shit down.
Disney.
Yeah. I don't.
Oh, Disney. I love you
And
more than anything.
there was a rumor with that Disney approached them as well. They were talking about
That doesn't
yeah,
surprise me
but
at
I
all.
don't. But that clearly never happened because again, Nintendo want control over this movie, and Disney would not have given them that control. I mean, there was the whole thing with Wreck-It Ralph when they had the Bowser cameos in Wreck-It Ralph, and then when they showed
Yeah.
the clip to Nintendo, they literally looked at them and went, "Make him bigger." And if they didn't make him bigger, they'd have to take him out.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, man. You want Bowser to have that screen presence.
Yeah.
You want him to be recognized because he's like probably one of the most important characters,
Mm.
and they don't want him to be overshadowed by other characters that exist in the films as well.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the. It always reminds me of Roger Rabbit. Do you know the thing about
Yeah.
because obviously it contains both Warner Brothers and Disney cartoon characters in it, where they both agreed that they said that we can put both of our characters in these films, but only if they share the same amount of screen time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, which is yeah, that's what kind of stuff they always do about it because they don't want their brands to be outshined by other brands. Like
Yeah.
yeah, Mario at the end of the day, as much as we love the games and stuff, he is a mascot,
Mm.
much like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
But that's what, yeah, but that's what he's recognizable. He's so recognizable as a character.
He could be you could say he's more recognizable than Mickey Mouse.
Yeah,
you,
probably is. It
you,
probably is now.
you probably
I don't
is
think
now.
many people. I don't think many people think of Mickey Mouse and then think of Disney anymore. I
No,
feel like it's just
it's all
yeah,
Frozen and uh, what Enchanto and Strange
yeah.
Worlds. Well, maybe not Strange Worlds, but yeah,
Maybe not Strange Worlds. I mean, I enjoyed Strange Worlds, but
I enjoyed that movie. Yeah.
it's not gonna set the world on fire. But
Oh
that's
yeah.
okay.
It's
That's okay.
it's yeah. I enjoyed the movie though. So yeah, that's pretty much our thoughts on Illumination. So when we got the
Beautiful.
first trailer for this movie, and we got that very first shot of the Ice Kingdom where the penguins live,
And we were
um,
like, wow.
yeah, my first thought literally there was, oh my god, this animation actually looks good. It looks quality. They
I
actually
will
put
say, I
effort
think
into this.
the thing that I am most excited for about the film is the animation. I'm
Mm.
not gonna lie.
It
I
looks
think the film will look incredible.
it's I mean, there's a reason why everyone's saying that this is Illumination's best looking film, and that's probably because they actually, even though this film, like that others, has a low budget, um, they've actually like put time and effort into it because obviously you've got other studios like Sony who have kind of taken the Illumination model, like with Spider Verse, but Spider Verse had a low budget, but you would
Ooh.
never know thinking that because of how good the animation is because they allowed the animators to like literally do the best that they could do.
It's
And
it it's the thing with anything is like if the people working on it are passionate enough, they'll make it good.
mm.
That's what you need.
And damn, are they passionate about this film because it looks
Oh yeah, I mean, the probably
oh,
because as well there was a lot riding on it
oh yeah,
as well. I bet like 100%. I bet this could have, in the wrong circumstances, this could have sank the studio. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, definitely.
Like Nintendo's like one of the big boys. Like
Yeah,
there's few companies that come neck level with Nintendo. Like Disney is
yeah,
like up there. Like they're like up at the top in terms of like money and power and influence.
mm,
So it's like yeah, gotta be careful, man.
yeah,
So I mean yeah, I mean like I said, the animation I think is probably going to be the best part of the film for me.
mm.
The rest of the stuff I'm not
uh,
so sure about.
well, we'll carry on talking about animation for a little bit because I feel like later on
Yes.
we'll probably disagree on a few things. But we'll talk about the thing we do agree on, which is the animation. I mean, the
Yeah.
character designs and everything as well. Like they look perfect in my opinion, and they've sort of managed to get this kind of middle ground, like where it's not like the Sonic film when the first design of Sonic, where Yeah, like
They
it,
should
like
have kept that. I'm
yeah.
just saying they should have just kept it.
I,
It was
I, I
great.
would I would actually love to see a cut of the film with that design. I want to see how different that movie would have turned out with.
Probably is. There probably is a version of like at least test footage out there of like a scene
Yeah,
that's been done with that version of it. But we're probably never gonna see it unless well, you never know. Like stuff keeps getting leaked
yeah,
all the time, so you
yeah,
never know. We might one day get it, and I hope we do.
yeah. Well, Mario's original face for the movie got leaked by a McDonald's worker. So
It did, yeah, it did,
yeah,
yeah. That was
but,
weird.
but the
That was
character
like a whole
designs
thing.
they've managed to like it's familiar enough to where you, like you know who you're looking at. Like when Mario's face got leaked. When I first saw it, I was a bit like, oh, but then after like looking at it for like 5 seconds, I was like, wait, no, that's Mario. Like
That's Mario.
it looks like it's familiar enough to where you know that you're looking at, like you know who you're looking at, but the animation feels different enough to the point where it looks like a movie rather than because the problem you have with adapting a game into animation, particularly like with 3D animation, is you run the risk of kind of doing what I feel like the Ratchet and Clank movie did, where it felt like you were watching a video game cutscene. Um,
If you played the Ratchet and Clank remake, you were.
yeah.
They use cutscene like scenes from those films to intersperse it with the remake. I remember when I played it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like with any kind of adaptation, you always you need to always bring something into it. You need to put your own ideas into it. You can't just rely on making it look exactly like the thing that you're replicating, because the problem is that you run the risk of it just people just kind of going, well, why don't I just go and like play the games? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So on that front, I think Illumination has done a pretty good job with the animation. To be fair, I do think it captures a lot of what people love about the designs of the characters, but keeps it a little
Yeah.
unique and doesn't rely too much on looking like the game. It has its own unique style, and for that, I do applaud it.
Hmm.
Is it a little too realistic looking in some places for me? Maybe a little bit, but that's just splitting hairs. There's
Hmm.
no point in nitpicking too much about it.
Yeah. I think the only character that I would say has maybe gotten the most, like the only two that got the most changes was obviously DK. Like Donkey Kong's had them like they even like highlighted that in the second direct. Like they've highlighted the changes, like they gave him more comical personality. Craigie Kong actually has been changed a bit because he's been made more of the head of the Kong family, and he's got like that little crown on his head when Mario's fighting DK in the second trailer. You see Craigie Kong very briefly. I would say Peach has had a few changes where they've made her look a little bit more like Disney princess-ish, I guess, like giving her like slightly bigger eyes um and all that stuff.
Yeah, they'll have gone for a more traditional cartoony approach to it
Yeah.
to points, because they want to keep the expressions more. They want to make the expressions very expressive.
Hmm.
Like if you see Donkey Kong's original design, his eyes are actually just he looks dead in the eyes.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny, but does it work for like an animated film? Absolutely not. It would look weird.
Yeah.
So I think they have done a good job of just sort of realizing where to go. Now we
Yeah.
need to change this, and like if we don't, it's going to look weird or it's going to look terrible.
Yeah. And they've given like there's like little changes as well. Like Mario and Luigi are wearing like, college shirts um
Yeah.
rather than
Well, it looks
yeah.
more like an actual plumber outfit.
Yeah, like it looks like they're actual plumbers, like like plumbers would actually wear. And obviously Toad's been given like sweatpants and yeah, like little changes that you wouldn't really like notice though all that much because you're like in so much awe
Yeah.
about how like I'm seeing these characters on screen for the very first time. Ignoring the live action version. This is the first time we're seeing it.
Yeah, this is the first film we're
Yeah,
seeing.
it's
There's been no Mario
yeah,
Brothers movies, even though we talked about it earlier in this podcast. They
yeah,
don't exist.
yeah. Well, there was an animated one though, the Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach.
Yeah, it was a Japanese animated one, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that wasn't too
Uh,
bad to be fair. Um, But yeah, it's Illumination's best looking movie, and hopefully, what I'm hoping that this does though is that I hope this movie is starts a new kind of chapter for Illumination where they're like, we need to have our movies start looking, good, because the problem with Illumination's previous films is that the animation in those look terrible, They look,
I haven't watched many Illumination films,
mm,
so I would need to do my research on that. But
yeah.
I'm going to agree with you and say yes.
I mean, I've seen a few, and they just look. They're made for cheap, and
I,
they look
yeah,
cheap.
I mean, how big? How many employees does Illumination have? I'm going to do some research here.
I think Illumination's just got one studio, and it's in Paris.
Employees. It says it's American.
All right.
It's co-owned by Universal Pictures. Right, cool.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at their LinkedIn.
Let's
Proper going up.
do.
You got any jobs going? They've got 551 to 200 employees, so somewhere around there apparently.
Wow.
They're in Santa Monica, California. So thinking about that,
Hmm.
like considering how good the Mario's Brothers movies looks, they must have really worked them animators, man.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like
Oof, bloody hell! They might have hired some freelancers as well, though. To be
yeah.
fair, but
I feel
yeah,
like mm,
oof. I hope
yeah.
they get to see their family soon.
And considering like how like Nintendo is pretty much in charge of this film. Like this isn't like a normal adaptation where
It is true, yeah.
yeah, like Nintendo's
They'll have they'll have
where
gotten a bit more money to
yeah.
actually hire some people to help out.
Well, Nintendo is financing it, I imagine, and they're going to own. And I think Nintendo's going to own the rights to the film, not Illumination. I think this
Oh
is
God,
was one of those
imagine
things.
imagine that though. Imagine Nintendo came up to you and said, "Here's some money for a film," and then you just realise that the money never ends. It's
The money never
ridiculous.
ends.
It really
Well,
doesn't.
but it is their best looking movie, and hopefully this will be a start of more like movies looking good and top quality. Like this is like a new start for them, which I'm hoping for. Because again, like you have other studios that have taken the Illumination model, like Sony with Spider Verse, where it's the low budget movie, but it looks, but you could never tell you would never tell it's a low budget film. You'd think that that movie's on the same budget level as say like a Disney
Like
film or
I can't stress enough how good the animation in Spider Verse is.
mm,
Like how much effort and passion was put into that work. It just looks incredible. Like I remember when I first saw it, I had like zero expectations for it. I saw the trailers and I was like, oh yeah, it looks kind of cool.
mm,
And then when I saw the film, I was blown away. I was
yeah,
like, oh my god, this is what animation 3D animation should be, and it seems to be going that way now.
yeah,
A mix between like sort of the kind of stuff that Illumination's done with the Mario Brothers film and
yeah.
um, like the Spider Verse sort of model. Which yeah, cool, sick.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
More of that, please. More good animation. I
mm,
like that.
yeah. But also, like, we need to talk about Bowser quickly, how he looks, because my God, well, as soon as Bowser, like, because one of the things I was worried about for this film, and this could still be the case, but I'm not getting it from any of the trailers, is that I was worried that because obviously, like, weird thing about Bowser is that there's like three different versions of him. Like, you have the one in like Super Mario Brothers 1, 3 World, and 64 Galaxy and Galaxy 2, I guess, and maybe Odyssey, where he feels like a threat, like an actual like a threat to Mario and a
Is
threat
that
to like
when he's King Koopa
yeah. Well, I
and
mean,
not Bowser?
oh yeah, in the first game he's King Cooper, isn't he?
He's King Koopa.
Well, I'm just gonna call him Bowser because I don't care.
Yeah, well, there's multiple versions of the same character.
Yeah,
Like basically,
yeah,
like doesn't really matter. I think Bowser's like main design that he's got now is the best design. I
mm,
like the weird cufflings on his arm. I like the
yeah,
big green turtle shell. I like the red mane of hair. I think it makes him look kind of silly and a little bit punk, like almost like a
yeah,
punk rock kid,
mm,
but also kind of menacing. I think he's got the right
yeah.
balance there.
Mm. Because I was, and then there's because obviously as I was saying before, like there's another version of Bowser like you get from like Sunshine, 3D Land, and 3D World where he's a bit of a bumbling buffoon, and it's a bit like I was worried for a bit that they were going to go in that direction. But seeing from the trailers and stuff like that, particularly the first one where he just destroys that fucking that like Ice Kingdom, it's like nah, Bowser's going to be a
Yeah.
proper threat in this film. Like Bowser is like an actual bad guy, and that's what I've missed from anime movies, man. I've missed villains just being evil. Do you know what I mean? Like you get all these Disney films now where it's all the twist villain, or you, yeah,
Well,
and it's just
as I said before, Connor, I
yeah.
suggest you watch the new Puss in Boots film.
Oh yeah, I've heard about. I've heard about one. There's a villain where not a twist villain, but more like a villain that we could probably talk spoilers because I know what happens in Puss in Boots, but I still want to see it.
Right.
Goldilocks and the Three Bears, where where she has a little redemption arc, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, those
Mm.
characters weren't really ever
Yeah.
villains. They were just sort of like they were sort of like the sort of misunderstood, like kind of like sort of anti-heroes a little bit, not
Oh,
really necessarily villains.
all right.
That they had a goal that they wanted to achieve, and it was going to get in the way of the protagonist, but their intent wasn't evil.
Mm,
Whereas in Jack Horner,
mm.
who is literally a character who is just evil because he's evil,
Yeah.
which they make a big point of making out in the film, and is very
Yeah.
clearly meant to be a sort of dig at more recent, not just animated films, but films in general, where they're so
Yeah.
keen to just make the villains sympathetic,
Oh, yeah.
which I don't think is a bad thing. I think if that's what your story is trying to tell, then yeah, fair enough, go with it. But every film does that now,
Yeah.
especially children's animated films. They all do the same thing, saying, "Oh my god, the reason why they're evil is because of this reason," and it's like, nah. Sometimes some people are just bad, man.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's
some
like
people are just bad. Sorry.
I do miss bad guys being just being evil, and I think how
Watch that Puss in Boots
yeah,
film, Connor. You will not be disappointed,
I will watch it. Don't worry, I will.
and we will review it
We
next
could,
week.
next week. We could do, to be fair, like if you want to, like
Yeah, I don't care. Let's do it.
we'll do a double when the Mario Bros movie comes out. We'll do a double special, a double bill of Mario Brothers and Illumination.
Yeah, I'll talk over the Mario Bros with you.
Yeah,
Anyway, we're getting distracted.
yeah. But yeah, Bowser looks great. His
Yeah, Basil looks
model,
cool.
the fact that he's just pure evil.
The fact that it's
Uh,
voiced by Jack Black as well,
I
which
mean,
like we will have to talk about the voice cast at some
yeah,
point.
yeah,
But
we will.
I'm
Don't
just
worry.
going to quick little, which we can all agree, Jack Black will be the best person in it
Hmm.
because he actually sounds like he's trying.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
but I knew he was going to try because he's Jack Black.
hmm. But yeah, so like the animation looks great, and the music as well. Like the fact that they sort of had this, especially in the first trailer when Mario like shows up in the Mushroom Kingdom, and you just have to like the Mario Brothers theme, but it's done in like this orchestral kind of slow
Mm.
aesthetic where it kind of taps into like it has this kind of taps into your childhood dreams and your nostalgia
Taps
and
into your nostalgia.
yeah, and your
It
familiarity.
wants you. It
Of,
wants you to buy a ticket, Connor.
yeah, yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
but there is a
Completely.
sense of but there is a sense of wonder, and a sense, and there's a fairy tale kind of aesthetic there that I'm getting from the trailers for this film, where obviously the live action one was supposed to have, but that version never materialized, and that I'm glad they've brought over into this because I do feel like Mario Brothers is I wouldn't say it's a bit like a fairy tale when you think about it because it's literally about a guy trying to save a princess from like a dragon. Most of the games,
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah.
There's always been that,
It's just a classic. It's a classic tale, like as old as
yeah.
time.
Mm. And there is that kind of the music as well, like especially in the second trailer as well, when they take the theme and then they just make it big, make it grand, and make it epic, and it's like you'd think like how would you make that Mario Bros theme like big, huge, and epic, and somehow like the composer for the film, I cannot remember his name, so I'm very sorry. Uh, but he's managed to find a way to like, obviously working with the composer for Nintendo, whose name, is it Koji Kondo? I think
Koji
that's
Kondo, yes,
yeah,
who is the main composer for pretty much all Nintendo games, and is
yeah.
a fantastic,
Hmm,
fantastic composer, creating some of the greatest music like ever.
hmm,
It's but not even just in games. I mean, just in general.
hmm. Oh wow.
In my opinion, in my
Oh
opinion.
no, yeah, he has definitely created some. He has made some great music. To be fair to him, um, and the fact that like he's on board working with the composer for the film, and they're like creating the soundtrack that we know that like we know of it. Like we've heard the Mario Brothers theme tune before, but but definitely not like this. Not in this way. Like not in this big kind of like we've heard it done like an orchestra, like with the Galaxy games and stuff. Like they had an orchestra, but it's just something like like it in the cinema in the terms of cinema anyway.
Hmm.
Like this is a more cinematic take on on like the Mario Brothers theme and
Yeah,
music, and it just sounds so good. Like you watch that clip from the Game Awards, where they've got like 5 songs from 5 different Mario games, and they all blend well together, and it gives you a good feeling. It makes you feel like my inner childhood is being very pleased right now, and my
yeah.
nostalgia is like tempting me to is saying to me buy a ticket, buy a ticket.
Yeah, 100%.
The symbolism
Uh,
there.
I think I would have been. I think there's two kind of points that I want to make up here, just as a point
Yeah,
of contention, not to be contrarian, but
that's fine.
it's just stuff that I love to talk about in general. I
Mm,
think that sort of idea of taking the theme
mm,
and of like a popular thing and recontextualizing it by making it like this sort of slow epic like version of it. I think that's done a little bit to death. But it doesn't surprise me when Mario with the Mario Brothers. I knew that was going to happen
mm,
as soon as I heard there was going to be a Mario Brothers film. I was like, yeah, nah,
mm,
that's just what they're going to do because that's what every film does nowadays. It's based on a previous IP,
mm.
and I think as well the other sort of thing that's always interesting about when stuff like this happens is that oh god, where was I going with this? There was something I was going to say. It was related to the music. Completely lost my train of thought here, Connor.
Yeah. Oh,
So I'm
oh
just going to
no.
have to build. I'll build it back up in a sec. It
All
was yeah. So it was
right.
music. We can just cut this out. It's fine.
Yeah, that's all
We'll
right.
make it flow. We'll get it in post. We'll get it in post.
We'll put some
Yeah,
post.
post is fine. Yeah, we'll do it in post. We'll do it in post.
Every filmmaker
Shit, what
around the
was
world
it?
is just shuddered by that. Ooh, it's in post.
Just they're looking down on me
Yeah.
now. Looking down on me. So we were talking about
Marvel's just
music.
looking down and you're like, yeah, we fix stuff in post all the time now. That's basically our
I
thing.
mean, their films are basically made in post. They might as well just do
Yeah.
animation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
They're
not seeing
like, come on, man.
I'm not seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, by the way, everyone who's listened to my last podcast where I was saying,
Yeah,
I might see it, I might not see it. I'm not seeing it. I'm not, I'm just gonna wait till it drops on Disney Plus and then watch it then because
I feel like that's how most people feel about Marvel films nowadays. To be honest with you,
yeah,
there's no real pull. No one's invested in like the where it's going anymore. So they're just like, oh, we'll just wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. If it's good, it's good. If it's
mm,
no, it's not. And I think that's why where Marvel's going to struggle for a little bit is trying to get that audience back in.
the,
Whether that'll happen or not,
well, they have to make good films and that you want to spend your money on during this cost of living crisis. You know what I mean?
yeah, that'd be nice, but
Yeah.
that's not going to happen anytime soon. I'll see
Oh
what
dear.
happens.
Uh,
It's, yeah, so yeah, music. I've
yeah,
forgotten now completely. It's just completely completely gone. The music is very cinematic. It's got the that was it. I remember what it is now, Connor. So
yeah,
we can do it. My other thing about films in general is that all films use orchestral soundtracks now.
mm,
And I'm a little bit miffed about that because while I do enjoy a good orchestral soundtrack, there's so many other types of music out there, Connor,
yeah,
and I would really like to hear that more in films in general. I mean, one thing that I would kind of like from the Mario Brothers film is maybe to kind of reuse a lot of those old retro themes in there a lot more frequently as well, without just relying on it being an orchestral version of it.
yeah.
That'd be nice. Just it'll be different. It
Mm,
would be nice to hear something that isn't just strings and like percussion
mm,
instruments all the time. It just add
mm.
a little different flavor out there, but it's probably not going to happen. But that's okay.
That's fine. Well,
We
it's,
love,
it's
we love, we love it. We love it. We love Mario Brothers. It's
we
good.
do love Mario Brothers. But let's move on to the directors of the film. Aaron I can't pronounce his name. Horvath and
Horvath? Yes, Aaron
Michael
Horvath.
and Jelenik. I cannot pronounce it. I'm dyslexic, so
Jelenik?
yeah.
Oh, that's fine. No worries. Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenik.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So their previous. So I'm not gonna lie. If I was always had my fingers crossed. Not that this was ever going to happen, but I had my fingers crossed that when they announced the Mario Bros. Movie, that Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the guys who did the Lego Movie, would direct it. Because I
Yeah,
feel like
that does seem like a very likely thing. Yeah,
because
100%.
I do feel like their type of style and type of comedy would have fit a Mario Bros. Movie perfectly. Um, but that being said, though, I mean these two guys, they're good. I feel like they're good stand-ins, I guess, because they worked on Teen Titans Go and everything, and that does have a bit of a
Ye
Phil Lord Chris Millerish from the clips I've seen from that show anyway on YouTube. A bit of
I
that type of yeah.
I try to I try to watch a clip from it once, and I was generally just like like this is so obnoxious. But once again, I feel like that's just that's just me not being the right age group for it and just not really understanding it, and it's just yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like yeah, the humor is definitely the thing I'm probably the most worried about in the film, if I'm being honest with you.
Well, I mean, it's being written
I
by.
feel like a lot.
Oh, sorry. What?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I feel like it's just gonna be the same kind of like those kinds of like cringy jokes that I just don't like,
Mm.
where it's like it's so obvious what kind of humor it is, and it's just like it just I'll just sit there and I just won't think it's funny. But that's just me.
Well, I mean, it's being written by Matthew Vogel, who wrote. He's written a ton of Illumination stuff, but he did also write the script for the Lego Movie 2, the second part. And
Which I've never seen.
I've seen it, and he does do a good job, um, with recreating the style that Phil Lord and Chris Miller did. Because I think they wrote the script the first one, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah,
Unless I'm wrong about that, in which
yeah,
case,
I think they did.
mm. But he
I
did,
think they did.
and I feel like he could bring. Um, he could bring like that comedy into it. But also, I feel like this is probably like the passion project for him. I feel like Minions 2: Rise of Gru was like the paycheck project where he was like, I'm just writing this so I get paid. But I feel like the script for this film was probably the one he looked at and he was like, no, I really want to do this movie. It's kind of like how the writer of The Boss Baby also has written a script for Shrek 5, and he was talking about that years ago, where he was like, "Oh yeah, it's a very personal script to me, and and it's got this big reinvention." So who knows? Maybe the success of Puss in Boots 2 will get that Shrek 5 script
I
made.
don't think it's impossible.
No,
Though I was looking it up with Puss in Boots too. That apparently, even though it's still one of the highest grossing films of like like the year animated
yeah,
films, it's still like compares nowhere near close to how much money Shrek's made, which is really funny, but also kind of a little bit sad.
yeah, that's sad, man. At least Shrek's still alive. At least he's still alive somewhere.
He's out there somewhere in the ether.
He's out there. He's out there somewhere.
He's looking down, and it's not ogre yet. That's all I'm gonna say, Connor.
Yeah, no, it's not over yet, is it?
Not ogre yet.
But yeah, I feel like compared to that, like the Boss Baby was like was pretty much that. That was probably like the paycheck script. Shrek 5 is probably the script that he wrote, like that he's the most passionate about. And I feel like for Matthew Vogel, that's probably the same thing with this film because judging from the trailers and stuff, the humor in this movie, it has made me laugh. Like it's not like it doesn't feel like Illumination's typical humor where it's like where it's like references and pop culture and like twerking and like trends and all this other like cringy stuff. Like the humor I've seen.
Does a minion do like a twerk or something in one of the films?
I think like in this one of the Sing films, if I remember from the trailer that I saw, I think there is some twerking in it.
I'm gonna type minion twerking on YouTube and see what
Yeah,
happens.
well, I think the not the Minions film, but the Sing ones, like the ones about animals singing. That's probably got something there. Um, and just also like pop songs and everything. But the
Ah,
humor in this
mate,
film,
I remember seeing the trailer for Sing like years ago, and it just like depressed me. It just made me go like, "What? What is this?"
yeah, like what is this? uh,
Yeah,
but yeah.
it's. I found the image.
Hmm.
I found the little video clip
Oh
from
man,
Sing. There we go. That's
yeah,
working all right.
yeah.
Do people still twerk? Is that like a thing? Sorry to get off
Um,
topic again,
I don't
but
know. I mean, I know there was a twerking scene in She-Hulk that everyone got upset over for some reason.
that
I
was
was just a
funny.
bit like, who cares? It's just two women twerking. Who gives a fuck?
I just care so little about it that it's like, yeah, whatever. Just do
Wow.
it.
I
Just
just,
do
yeah,
it. Who
I just didn't
cares?
really. If you listen to my last episode, I didn't really give a fuck about She-Hulk that much.
I know. I mean, yeah. I mean,
It-
well, this is something we'll probably talk about at some point.
yeah,
But I'm not the biggest fan of the Marvel films, really,
yeah.
because I'm not a big comic book guy, and I just think that they're kind of boring. So yeah, but that's okay.
No, that's fine. Um, but yeah, the humor in this film so far from the trailers looks something more akin to like the Mario RPGs kind of humor, like the Mario and Luigi series, the
I
Paper
have,
Mario series, like
yeah,
that
Super
kind
Mario
of.
Bros. Yeah, it could be. It could be. I
Like
hope so.
it does feel a lot like of that humor to me anyway. Uh,
If it gets a chuckle out of me, I'll be okay with it.
hmm.
I'll
I
be all
think
right.
like it'll be, and there's a lot of comedy to be had in Mario Bros movie. Like let's be honest, there's a lot to make fun of. Like
Mm.
there can be a lot of good jokes that you can really have fun with. That I do hope they take. I hope they take advantage. They're well, they're allowed to take if they're allowed to take advantage of it from if Nintendo like reread the script and was like, nah, cut that out, cut that out, cut that out. Wanna hope.
Yeah, well, you never know. Like they probably did have a scene where Toad twerks, and then Nintendo was like, absolutely not.
Yeah, Nintendo was just
Stop this
like,
at once.
Nintendo's just like,
Miyamoto crashed in through the ceiling and said, "Stop
stop,
immediately,
stop
cease and
pushing.
desist."
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
we're
I'm not
making a
saying
tax write off. That's what the Warner Bros likes doing that now, apparently.
Oh
Yeah.
god, don't get me started on Warner Brothers.
Yeah, they did that with
Warner
with
Warner
Scooby. Yeah.
yeah, Warner Brothers has got like one of the biggest like extension of like cartoons of all time, and they're doing nothing with them,
No,
and
yeah,
that's just
yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
They cancelled the Looney Tunes. There was going to be a Looney Tunes film that came out that was going to be a musical.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's been cancelled, and it's just like,
yeah.
oh, that really. I was just like, I was so looking forward to that, and
That just sucks.
that just sucks, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the comedy so far in the film looks good. Well, to me, for as a Mario fan, like a big, long time Mario fan, for me, like I was like laughing at the jokes, like when the training course comes up and it's like designed like one of the 2D levels from the 2D games,
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my god, like that's just hilarious. For me anyway, because I've played the 2D, like obviously I've played like the 2D games, like Mario
yeah,
Brothers 1, 2, 3 and World, and I just loved the fact that they're able to incorporate the 2D kind of elements, the 2D models into the film, like the fire bars, but they're not actually fire bars. They're actually like because in those games there were circles, because obviously because of the graphic limitations. But in
yeah.
that training course scene in the trailer, the fire bars are actually circles. Like the former Mario is trying really hard to like get past them and just gets hit by them. I feel like to me anyway, that just made me laugh. The
No, it's
scene where
fine.
he's like hold on to like the bullet bill and he's screaming, he's like, ah! To me like that again, that just makes me laugh. Like, I know I've seen some people complain about that, obviously, because it's like, oh, of course they make the man, the bumbling idiots, and Peach is the perfect.
Well,
Yeah, and it's like, well, I mean,
that's just people being misogynistic trolls. What are you
mm,
going to do?
yeah, it's just
I
one of those
think.
things where it's like, God,
Well, I mean, would it be interesting if Mario was doing everything perfectly? That doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
Also, like the whole point of the story clearly is that Mario's going into the legend of like the cat. Well, like he's becoming a hero. He's going
yeah,
through the hero's journey, as it were.
yeah, the hero's journey, yeah,
Peach, I mean, not just in terms of like story component, but also in terms of just practicality from considering where she lives, would probably be already able to do a lot of that stuff
yeah, and it's like,
because it's just commonplace for her. It's just common knowledge. You know what I mean? That's just
yeah.
things that you have to deal with.
And
But
it's
yeah,
and it's also if you read the Super Mario Bros. Adventures comic books at all,
yeah, didn't they base
yeah,
it a lot off of
mm,
didn't they base it a lot Peach
yeah,
in this film a lot
yeah,
of that version of her? Yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah,
like
which is
and
fair
a
enough.
lot of the humor from those have, from what I've seen anyway, because I've watched the motion comics on YouTube.
Oh,
Like a lot of the humor from those comics has kind of been taken, and like those comics have basically been the main inspiration for this film. Like,
that'd be
let's be
nice if
honest,
it.
like a lot of it's been that. A lot of it's probably been that. But moving
Yeah,
on to let's move on to the big thing now. Let's move on to
probably
the
be funny.
voices. Let's move on to the voice cast. Oh boy,
Where are we now?
we're up
Shall
to the
we
voice
talk
cast now.
about? Shall we? Yeah, there we go. Lovely. Here's a bit. Here's a bit people want us to talk about, really, Connor.
Yeah. Oh god.
So, so we want to talk about Chris Pratt
Let's talk.
immediately.
Let's talk about Chris Pratt. So when the voice cast was first announced,
Yes.
when during the Nintendo Direct, and was
Yeah.
talking about, oh, let's be all cast for the first time, I was like, oh my god, who's going to play Mario? And then Chris Pratt's face popped up, and I just burst out laughing.
He's
I
so
was
cool.
like,
He's so cool, though, Connor.
he's so cool.
He's so cool.
Um,
That.
but
Oh man.
my opinion on it before the trailers came out was that the rest of the voice cast I was fine with, because most of them I feel like, yeah, they were like, they're celebrities. They've done the whole celebrity thing, but I feel like for most of them they're the bright celebrities. If that makes any sense, like they suit the characters. Like Charlie Day as Luigi for me is like perfect.
Charlie Day as
Yeah,
Luigi definitely really suits it.
yeah, that's
I
like,
think he's got that kind of high pitched, whiny, like sort of cowardly voice that's perfect
yeah.
for a character like Luigi.
Hmm. Um,
Um, yeah,
uh,
Jack Black as Bowser.
yeah,
I already mentioned it earlier. He was perfect casting for that, in my opinion.
yeah.
It would have been nice if he could have done more of a voice that wasn't clearly too similar to his own. If he could have actually like really gotten into it, but yeah, they want him recognizable to an extent, I imagine.
Yeah. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. I mean, to me, that's
That was the one that made me laugh when that showed
yeah,
up because it was just like that. Just seems like so. That was the biggest thing about both Chris Pratt and Seth Rogen is they just felt so obvious.
mm,
It felt like as if it's like you've got these two in this film. That's like the most obvious thing in the world.
mm.
You know what I mean?
But I do like seeing the trailers now, like the little TV spot when Mario gets the catsuit. and you see DK like actually like talk, I do think Seth Rogen's voice does fit Donkey Kong, at least in this film anyway, because they've made him more
It's it's very
comical.
difficult to tell with a lot of the characters exactly how the
Yeah,
performances are going to be from trailers, like because they're so snipped and they're all broken up and like the voice lines are like out of sync and yeah, there's a
yeah,
lot of things to it. So for
mm,
the benefit of the doubt, I will say I'm not going to make a final judgment
yeah,
on like any of the voice cast until I've seen the film
mm,
in its entirety. Though I do think Chris Pratt is going to be the worst.
mm,
That's just like a guess, but
yeah.
I do think he's going to be the worst.
Anya Taylor-Joy's Peach for me was always like as soon as I was like, yeah, she's fine as Peach. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
care.
fine. You get a woman to
That's
voice her.
fine.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
No, they should have gone a
Yeah,
girl.
I think that's fine. It just depends on what kind of character they're doing for Peach. Which, once again, in
Yeah,
the trailers, you don't really get a full idea of her character.
I think like they've probably doing the more um they're doing the more like Mario Bros. Adventures comic books where she's a bit more
Maybe.
stronger and a bit more
And
independent. Like
yeah, it just depends. Really,
yeah.
we'll have to wait and see for that on that front.
Keegan Michael Key as Toads kind of surprised me the most because it was one of those things where Keegan Michael Key is an actor where I'm a bit half and half about like in some of the things he does, I do like him. Like I do find him funny, but he's also one of those actors that can get a bit a bit annoying after like he's
Yeah,
yeah
interesting choices. I'll say that much.
yeah
I still think
um
the best film I ever saw him in was the Netflix film what was it called again? It was based off of. Do you know who Rudy Ray Moore is? Yeah, you know who he
uh
is.
I think so yeah.
Yeah, so he was a black exploitation actor who was famous for making the film Dolomite.
Hmm. Oh
And
wow
Dolomite is My Name. That was the name of the film, and that was a biographical comedy film starring Eddie Murphy as Rudy Ray Moore. And Keegan Michael Keel was in that, and he was very good in it. He just played the perfect, like,
yeah
kind of for the character he was playing. He was
yeah.
perfect for that role.
Hmm.
That whole film in general is really good. If you haven't seen that film, it's on Netflix. Watch it.
Hmm. Oh nice, I'll have to watch that then.
Yeah,
I'll do
it's
that.
really good. It's really funny.
But his tone voice, when as soon as he started talking, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's Keegan Michael Key, isn't it?"
Well, what
didn't recognize him at first. To be fair,
what's interesting about the Toad voice is that they somehow managed. They realized that when they were making, they were like, right, we just can't make Toad annoying because
yeah.
he's fucking annoying in the games.
Oh god, yeah,
So they were like, we can't have that voice because one, it'll kill whoever, it'll kill the voice actor. Like their
yeah,
throat will be destroyed. But if they try to do that
yeah,
voice, and also it's just annoying. So they got somebody who could do a voice a bit similar, a bit, and yeah. So
yeah,
I think it's fine. Yeah, I
yeah,
think it's fine. I think they got the right kind of performance they needed out of
yeah.
it for it.
Kevin Michael Richardson as a Kemek, I feel like was a good choice because, and also like a good. Was kind of also shocked me because when he first started talking in the first trailer, I legitimately thought it was the voice actor who voiced Rex in Toy Story. I didn't even think there was Kevin Michael Richardson at all, which obviously because he's actually a well-known voice actor,
Hmm.
so I shouldn't be too surprised. But I was a bit confused, not confused, but a bit like, wait, is that the guy who does Rex from Toy Story? And then I was like, no, no, that's Kevin Michael Richardson. He's just doing a really good, a really good Rex voice, I guess. But Kemek does sound quite, menacing, quite chilling, and very kind of slimy and snake, like very slimy and very kind of Bowser's henchman, which is a
Is he like the one that's like the Cooper with the glasses?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Who like the glasses?
yeah,
Yeah, I thought it
the
was.
blonde.
It's like presenting King of the Coopers or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. I liked it. I liked his voice. I was like, there's an actual like kind of interesting voice
Yeah.
there.
And
Finally.
we're still waiting to hear, Sebastian, I can't remember his last name, playing Foreman Spike, and
Oh
Fred
yeah,
Armisen playing Cranky Kong,
yeah.
which
We've
could be
seen Cranky
interesting.
Kong, but we haven't heard him speak.
I think there's some
Haven't we?
actors making cameos in the film. I don't know who. Well, we know Charles Martinet is playing. We'll go into Charles Martinet
He's
in a
annoying
second,
voice.
but he will
Yeah.
be making some cameos. Don't know what those cameos will be, but we'll have to wait for the film to find out. But there is a rumor that because there was a leaked McDonald's toy set, and one of the toys in that set was a Luma, um,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are suspecting that could be one of his cameos where he could be playing that Luma um, from Mario Galaxy, which could work. That might be nice, um, but going on to Chris Pratt's voice,
Chris Pratt, eh?
Yeah. So when I first heard it in the first trailer, I wasn't a big fan. I was a bit like, oh,
He's
all
just
right,
doing his voice.
yeah. It wasn't that. It was just it was his voice, but it was a little. There was something about it where it was a bit like when he goes, "Mushroom Kingdom, here we come." It was like,
It
oh,
was just delivery of the line.
yeah,
Like it might not have been the best take of it.
yeah, but
Trailers sometimes will use takes from like other like different like
yeah,
cuts and stuff. It happens
yeah.
consistently, but you never know.
But I do have to say, like, it has grown. His voice has grown on me over time. Like the other trailers and the Game Awards clip and the TV spots, it has kind of gone to the point where I'm like, I'm used to it now. Because when him and Charlie Day were first like announced, I was pretty much like, oh, they're doing the plumbers from Brooklyn thing. Like he's just going to be doing a slight Brooklyn accent, and that's actually what it sounds like to me now. It's just Chris Pratt doing a very light Brooklyn accent. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, Ian
but
Watkins.
but they want to keep the voices relatively familiar for people
Yeah,
to hear, because obviously they want people to know like, oh, this is Chris Pratt voicing Mario. You
mm,
know what I mean? Like they were never going to have Chris Pratt doing like if he could do it, doing an incredibly like
yeah,
sophisticated voice. It was never going to happen.
yeah.
Because there's still a stigma, unfortunately, in general, not just in terms of like mainly because of the fault of the industry itself, which is that voice actors aren't real actors,
Mm.
which is which is complete and utter nonsense.
Yeah,
Uh, you
that's
know what I mean?
not true. That like
It's not
they are
fair,
the actors.
and that leads into the reason why we're probably, which I think you're going to talk about, Connor, which
Yeah,
is Charles Martinet,
yeah, uh,
long-time voice of Mario, pretty much from
yeah.
the beginning,
I would have,
as far back as it goes.
yeah, like well, soon as far as the nineties,
Definitely
nineteen
as
ninety
far as I know it
six.
is.
Uh, but yeah, like Charles Martinet, he like I mean, like I won't lie, the child in me would have preferred Charles Martinet because like he's his voice is more familiar. But he is also he is a good actor. So he could have been able to change it or tweak it to make it sound a bit more suitable for cinema for the film. But at the same time, though, if he did, would it still sound the same? Like, it would still sound, it's
Yeah,
me, Mario, um, like that voice, or would have been a bit, would have strayed away too much from that voice, to the point where people may have been like, who's voicing Mario again? Um, it's kind of like how I've got this in the notes, but it is kind of like how with Tom Kenny who voiced Spyro in the PS1 originals of Spyro 2 and Spyro 3. He plays that he in the PS1 originals. It's very cool cat, very laid back kind of character. And then when he came back to do the reignited trilogy, he sounded more like a child, more childlike, and that was obviously to compensate for the more updated graphics at the time, where they were able to like get across that Spyro is a child, like more of a kid.
yeah, and I think as well, like Spyro was definitely a character of the time he was released in, which is the '90s, which is when every character was a rude kid, too
Yeah,
too cool for school kind of thing.
yeah,
That was like everywhere in the '90s, and even following into the early 2000s, like all because of Bart Simpson, probably.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. And to kind of talk a bit more about Charles Martinet, for my own personal opinion, I
yeah,
mean, Charles Martinet is somebody who's not just done Mario for his entire voicing
yeah,
career. Like he's done a lot of stuff.
mm,
He's not only a good actor in his own right. He's also a very varied voice actor, capable of doing a lot of voices and changing like his voice very easily. So
yeah,
I still find the whole idea that it's like, oh well, they got rid of Charles Martinet because they needed someone like Chris Pratt because he's more of an actor. All that stuff. It's
yeah,
just nonsense. It's not true.
mm,
They got rid of Charles Martinet because they wanted a recognizable. It's the same reason why they do it with every animated film ever. They want
yeah,
recognizable faces. They want people who they can put the name they can put on the poster and say the X is in this film, and then you go, oh, well, I want to watch that because I really like Chris Pratt. I don't know why I do, maybe because I'm a boring person, but I really like Chris Pratt. And then they go watch
yeah,
the film. And it is unfortunately the case that is just the case of it. I mean, and just
yeah,
to kind of be fair as well, that does not mean that there are definitely not actors who can do voice acting work really well.
yeah.
The classic example being Jeremy Irons' Scar in the original
A
Lion
Lion
King.
King, yeah,
He does a fantastic job in that film.
Mm,
He is so good in it,
yeah, except for the
and
scene
yeah,
that
and it's
that was Jim Cummings.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting for the day where we do get an animated film that comes out where all of the people involved in it are voice actors,
Yeah.
and they are the merits that they're doing is saying no, these are not these are people who have been chosen for these roles because their voices suit the characters that we're portraying.
Mm,
It might happen one day. I think it will do because it does seem to be getting voice actors in general seem to be getting a lot more like
work.
unionized and like
Yeah.
having a bit more of a say in terms of production and stuff at the moment. So I'm hoping at some point that does happen because I think it'd be better than just consistently using
Yeah.
terrible actors who don't really know what they're doing even in front of a camera, let alone in a sound booth.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Time
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, but that is a good point though. To be fair, I mean, with voice actors, they're so they are pretty much screwed over in the quite a lot in
Oh
animation.
yeah, yeah. So are animators as well. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely a case of the people who benefit the most from these animated films are
Mm.
the executives who run the studios and the actors who are paid to do the voices.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they're the people who
Yeah.
benefit from it the most in terms of like
Yeah.
financially speaking, anyway.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty common practice, not just for an animation, but also in regular filmmaking as well. So
Mm. Yeah.
what you're gonna do?
Yeah, there was a rumor running around that Charles Martinet's like voices Mario voices like whenever Mario jumps or he gets hit by like fire or something, that those could be used, like those could be technically counted as the cameos. Like kind of like how in Rescue Rangers where Chip and Dale are arguing and then as they continue to argue and their voices get higher, they sync back up into their voice actor voices, like the high pitched ones from the show. Uh,
Right, I see.
yeah, and it's like to me personally, that's a terrible idea, and don't do that because it just comes off like it does come off a bit like a personal kind of insult to the original voice actors, where it's like, "Huh, we technically we did use you we did use your work, so you can't say we screwed you over." And it's like, no, like either you cast
Yeah,
them or replace them. Like
I
that's just it, really. Like
I'd
don't
be
be like,
surprised. I'd be surprised
yeah,
if that happened. That would be really awkward.
yeah.
It would just wouldn't make any sense. It would just be so weird.
Yeah, like he's got Chris Pratt doing the whole like,
I
"Hey,
mean, I
hey."
say I say this, but studios do weird stuff all the time. You never know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's true, but
No, I
we'll
don't think
see.
it's
We'll
true.
see when the film comes out.
Yeah,
Maybe I will be pleasantly surprised.
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
yeah, there's a joke that people are wearing around. Like people saying this as a joke, but like I can totally see it happening where like at the start of the movie Mario's like walking down the street and he starts talking in the "It's me, Mario" voice, and then he coughs and then it's Chris Pratt and it's like, "Oh, that was weird." And I was like, "Oh no." I can see that happening.
yeah, that could happen actually.
That actually would I would walk out if that happened. I would actually like, nah, fuck this, I'm walking out, mate. Bye bye. I would
That
walk
would
out
be
the film
weird.
that happened. I can't even. Yeah. But yeah, like again, the voice cast. I'm fine with most of them. Chris Pratt's voice, it's fine. It's just a light Brooklyn accent. It doesn't. I'm
I
used to
think
it.
I think they'll do.
Yeah.
I think they'll be fine. They'll
Yeah.
do the best they can do.
Mm.
I still think Chris Pratt's going to be the worst,
Yeah. I think like
but
you got the other ones, like the other actors that are actually like they are putting their all into it. Like especially Charlie Day, who's always sounded like a cartoon character though, but he's doing like he's so good as Luigi. Like if you heard the you know how they did that commercial for the Super Bowl where they brought back the Super Show rap.
yes,
Yeah, and then obviously they had a phone number at the bottom, and if you call it, Charlie Day's Luigi, like you get a voice message from him, and like it's just one of those things where you listen to it and you're like, that is just Luigi, man. Like
yeah.
it just suits Luigi so well,
Well,
and
I think it helps that Charlie Day in general has quite a cartoony voice. He just sounds
mm,
ridiculous because he's got like this really kind of quite high pitched voice. He's got
yeah,
quite high pitched up here,
yeah,
He's like this,
yeah,
and I think it just suits something like a
mm,
character like Luigi really well.
Yeah.
So good casting choice on that one, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the voice actors, I think the actors they've got will do the best they can with the material they've
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for them. Pray for them, people. Pray for them.
Fingers crossed.
Pray for
Fingers crossed.
them. But yeah, I mean, everything about the movie, though, to me anyway, is looking pretty. It is looking pretty solid for me. Even for like as soon as that second trailer, when I watched that second trailer, I was like, particularly like, especially with like the Mario, like they've brought back. I can't believe they brought in Mario Kart. Like the fact that they're all going all out with the kind of references to it, and I think they're in a good position to do it because obviously I feel like everyone has pretty much played a Mario game in their life, like at least one, because he's so like recognizable. And the thing about fan service that I don't particularly like nowadays, but especially with the new Star Wars movies, because new Star Wars movies do this all the time, where it just feels forced. Like it's kind of like, hey, remember this? Remember this thing? Kind of like the best example, like a Rogue One, when C-3PO and R2D2 just randomly show up for one shot, and it's like, remember them? They're in A New Hope. It's C-3PO and R2D2, and it's like, ugh. It just to me, it just seems like we get it. Like cool, but it's one of those things where fan service needs to be kind of uh either minimalized, like a bit like yeah, like not thrown in your face a lot because that can cause problems, particularly with the casual viewer. Especially, I don't know what do you think?
Well, fan service is always something I find quite interesting because I think it's kind of like almost inevitable, especially when you're making something that's based off of an IP.
Yeah.
You're going to have to put stuff in there that people recognize because
Oh yeah.
that's part of what it is. You know what I mean? When I see the stuff that they're referencing in the Mario Brothers films, like, oh yeah, I totally get why they've put that stuff in there
Yeah.
because it's just like, yeah, it's what it is. Going back onto Star Wars, Star Wars is definitely the worst example of it. Where
Yeah.
what I think makes it worse for something like Star Wars, though, is that it's very clear that it's because whoever it is who's making the decisions behind the scenes, like I'm not going to say any specific names because we don't really know.
Mm,
It could be the directors, it could be the producers, it could be the executives, it could be anyone. They seem to be stuck at the idea of like what makes Star Wars is these very specific things from the original trilogy,
mm,
and they're not interested in deviating from it in any way, shape, or form. Which is, like you said, like in Rogue One, where they just have a C3PO and a R2D2 cameo out
mm,
of nowhere, even though it
yeah.
doesn't really make any sense. It's like, but because that's a recognizable image that
Mm,
people get and understand. You know what I mean? I think it's definitely even with the Mario Brothers film, there are definitely points of it I feel like where I am going to get a little bit like, oh yeah, it's that thing from that thing. I get
yeah.
it, and it is going to feel very contrived. But I think the majority of people in general aren't going to notice that.
Yeah.
That's for like people like me and you who
Yeah.
like are familiar
Mm,
with the franchise and like care about those and like see those details and like and notice them.
yeah.
Whereas
Like
in like, but most people aren't going to notice them.
yeah, that's probably like for me, like that's what I'm kind of hoping for, like just fan service where a lot of it is just little Easter eggs hidden in the background. Where because that's always what I liked about Marvel movies from Phase One to Phase, all the way to the end of Phase Three, where a lot of the fan service, with the exception of Endgame, yeah, with the exception of Avengers Endgame, a lot of the fan service in those movies were just little. Most of it was just little Easter eggs hidden in the background for like the mega nerds to like notice. Um, and the only time when they were brought to the forefront was when it was like actually part of the plot, like part of the story, and it was actually explained so that the casual viewer wasn't like felt alienated. Because I'll say this like as a Doctor Who fan, like this is probably a good example. Like you had the Ross T Davis era when he did the show the first time round. Um, like he always kept the fan service to like a minimum. Like he always used it sparingly, and that was because he didn't want to like alienate the casual viewer. And then when you had Stephen Moffat come in after him, it was all like references everywhere, and like at least every episode at least have like one reference to like the past or Tom Baker or something. And just one of those things where it's like at first it was cool. It was like, oh wow, we're getting more stuff from the like more references to Doctor Who's past. But then like by the time you got to like series 8, I think it was like we've overdosed on this now. This isn't
Mm.
special anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
yeah,
that's the key word, isn't it? Special. It doesn't feel special anymore. It
yeah,
doesn't feel like the reason why people. This isn't just like with something like with any kind of like big franchise in general, like Star Wars, Mario, Doctor Who, whatever it is that you like,
yeah,
is you almost form a very close attachment to those things because they feel special to you.
yeah,
And the problem is that when they're overexposed to such an extent, they don't feel special anymore, and then it makes you kind of sick of it. Like Star Wars is something that I grew up with,
mm,
like the original three films I watched repeatedly on the on my old VHS player back when I was a kid,
yeah,
and I even watched the original the prequel trilogy as well on repeat because yeah, whatever, I don't care. The prequel trilogies are fun to watch even if they're terrible films. Um,
uh,
but I think eventually that becomes less special, becomes less meaningful,
yeah,
and that is the ultimately the problem with that with the kind of films like those kind of big budget films being released in the wild. They don't feel personal. They
yeah,
don't feel like as if they're coming from somebody who wants to put something out there because they're interested in how other people view the things that they're making. They're being made by massive companies because yeah, they want to make money. I mean, which is
yeah,
fair enough. I mean, they have their right to because they're allowed to.
yeah,
But it's this is where fan service and like stuff like that can definitely be a big trap because it becomes a very easy way for them to try to lure people in, or what they think is luring people in anyway. Because they go, well, we've looked at the statistics,
yeah,
and we know that if we put this in here, it's going to draw the older fans to come in, and we want to get as many people as possible to watch it. That's what it comes down to mainly more than anything, and I think it's always a slippery slope, and a lot of people, a lot of projects like Star Wars, for example, then rely on it as a way to tell a story when it's not really telling a story.
yeah. And for this film in particular, like again, with the you look at the clip they released at the Game Awards, the one where Mario's walking through Toad Town for the very first time, and the fan service that you get in those like I knew what a lot of the stuff was because I've like played the games for years, but it didn't like when I was watching that clip I was like it did feel special to me, but I think that's probably because this is like the first Mario Bros movie well ever really because it's called the Super Mario Bros movie. There was definitely
Yeah,
never
there's never
live
one,
action
no previous ones existed.
that live action didn't
They
happen. It didn't
don't
happen. It,
exist.
it was just a really bad dream. A very bad dream of Bob Hopkins and John Leguizamo. um, uh, but it did feel special to me. But it is those things where it didn't feel. Like I'm watching this and I'm like, if I wasn't a Mario fan, would this like
Would it
distract me?
appeal to you? Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it would. I think like most fans who aren't big Mario fans can like just will hopefully be
Mm.
able to like
Hopefully.
watch this film and just not feel alienated. Like the casual viewer doesn't feel alienated
Yeah.
because
The key to it's definitely writing your story anyway. Like if you're making an adaptation based on an IP, just write a story first, a
mm,
story that you want to tell. Take a little influence from the IP if you need to, but write
yeah,
that story first. Put the characters in. Then, if you want to add stuff around it that is like the fan servicey stuff, then yeah, go ahead and do it. But make sure you've got that core element to your film because otherwise, it's just nonsense.
yeah, exactly.
Oh
Um,
well,
yeah, and so hopefully the fan service will be good, and it will
let's
be
hope
good, but hopefully it won't
it will
like.
be. It
Well, it
will
depends
be.
on it's a corporate, really, isn't it?
We'll see, won't we?
Yeah,
We'll see come April 5th.
come April 5th. Um, so let's talk about some other Nintendo franchises. Because I feel like if this movie does well, we're gonna get more like movies based on
It is
Nintendo
possible.
IPs.
It is possible. I
Whether
definitely,
the
wa- I definitely want to see a funny Zelda film where
yeah,
Zelda jumps around and make funny face and twerks.
oh no, don't worry, I don't think Nintendo will ever let that happen.
No. If they make a Legend of Zelda film, it has to be something. It has to be like a standard like Heroes Adventure series. It needs to take itself relatively seriously.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, talk about the other ones getting movies. If this one's a success or not. They could, obviously, one thing I could think they could do, Nintendo could do anyway, if they really wanted to.
Yes.
Maybe this is what the whole Nintendo Pictures thing is about. I don't know what that's production company is about. um, they could like go different with each film. And by that I mean, some could be animated, some could go live action, some could be a TV series, or they could like it could doesn't always have. I feel like with Nintendo, it doesn't always have to be animation. I feel like Metroid in particular. I think could work pretty well in live action. I think,
Yeah, Metro could work. I
yeah,
definitely could. I definitely could get down on like a
yeah,
cool Metroid film, but I want it to
yeah.
be actually scary.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that's the other problem is like Metro. I want the film to be genuinely scary, like as
yeah.
in like a horror film.
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
feel because that's definitely what it borrows its aesthetics from is like the Alien franchise
Mm,
and like sci-fi horror films in general. So I definitely think it
yeah,
needs to be a horror like scary.
yeah. I feel like Star Fox could be animated, or could be stop motion maybe because they were going to do a stop motion Star Fox series for Netflix that got cancelled.
Stop motion.
Um,
That's interesting. Why would they make a stop mo? Why did they do that series specifically as stop motion?
I don't know
I
actually.
wonder. It's
It's
very strange that they just said stuff. Yeah, stop motion. Why not?
mm. Yeah, let's do
Why
stop
not?
motion. Stop motion.
I
Uh,
could see a Super Mario or like a Donkey Kong series being stop motion. That'd be pretty cool.
mm. Oh, nothing like the
Or
Donkey Kong.
Pikmin stop motion.
Oh, Pikmin would be good. Pikmin would
That'd
be
be
really good.
so good.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
yeah.
it's,
Kirby.
Kirby would have to be animated like the Mario movie. I think. I don't think Kirby would.
Maybe they'll do all these little films and then they'll build up to the big film con of the Smash Brothers
Uh,
film.
let's talk about that. Do we want
Maybe
a
that's what
Nintendo
they do.
Cinematic Universe?
No, I don't want it
Fuck
to
no.
Nintendo. I'm sick and tired of cinematic universes in general.
Same.
I don't want every film to just be a film to set up another film.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous
It's
now.
like if you'd asked me that question in like 2014, 2015, I would have said yes. If you ask me that question now, I would definitely 100% say no, because it's just one of those things where it's like, again, I'm all kind of cinematic universe out. I don't like
Well, I
especially
think
after we've had like especially after like 2016, we had so many cinematic universes
oh mate,
that try to get off the ground and like
Batman v
fail. Like,
Superman, that was a classic. What are you
yeah,
talking about?
the Dark Universe with Tom Cruise as the Mummy.
Yeah, that was interesting.
What
I
else?
can't believe
The Ghostbusters cinematic universe that was
oh
going to
mate,
happen with the
oh
female
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters film.
Why would they make Ghostbusters a cinematic universe? It's just the same
Yeah,
thing. It's just
uh,
about a bunch of people capturing ghosts.
yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
And then you had Sony trying to do a Spider-Man cinematic universe, and they're still trying with all those shit Venom films and Morbius,
Oh yeah, God.
Man on Web, and oh god,
I told you that I've seen Morbius?
oh no, come on, man, you have not seen
Oh
Morbius.
yeah, I've seen
You
Morbius.
haven't done this to yourself.
I
Oh my
have
god,
a high tolerance for this kind of garbage, and yeah, it was terrible. It was genuinely terrible.
it was.
It didn't make any sense. The acting was weird. Jared Leto's a weird dude, by the way. I don't know if
Oh yeah,
I
like
don't know
he's
if anyone else
crazy.
has said this. I did generally think he's a weird dude, and
Oh yeah,
I think there's something going on there. I
he's
think he
crazy.
needs to be investigated.
Him and his cult needs to be
Yeah.
investigated.
Oh yeah, he's got a cult, hasn't he, on his island?
Yeah, like that is crazy
What
to
the hell
me.
is going on with that guy,
Like,
man? He needs to stop.
yeah,
It's
just
time to stop, Jared Leto.
he should have just stuck with 30 Seconds to Mars. Like that. He should have just stuck with that.
Ah,
Um,
mate,
not
and that
even just
band's terrible.
yeah.
Anyway, do you think maybe we could get a? I'm having a look at Nintendo franchises. Do you think maybe we could get a Wii Sports film?
A Wii Sports movie.
Yeah.
Oh, we could do. To be fair. Um,
Do you know what? Genuinely, actually seeing it, I genuinely wouldn't mind a Punch Out film. That'd
oh,
be pretty
I
cool.
was going to mention that actually. Yeah, Punch Out. We could definitely have like
Just make it like a Rocky knockoff.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
Rocky
down for
inspired
that. And it's just like
movie.
ridiculous. Yeah, he just gets tossed around by like the big dude. What's his name again? I know there's a lot of racial stereotypes in that film, so I'm going to try and not say a lot of the
Yeah.
boxes just to be safe.
Um,
What's the name
yeah.
of that big dude who lives on the island? Punch Out boxes. I'm having a look online. Let's have a look. There's obviously Little Mac, who's the main character.
Mm, yeah.
Yes. What's the name of that? What's the name of that guy? It's not Mr. Sandman.
Mr.
Uh,
Sandman.
I know there's Soda Popinski,
Yeah.
who is the Russian one. Superman Von Kaiser, yeah, classic. Piston Honda, we love
Yeah.
him. King
Donkey Kong.
Hippo, King Hippo. That's the dude I'm thinking
King
of.
Hippo. Oh yeah, King Hippo, the big one.
The big dude, yeah, he
Yeah.
like proper knocks him about and
Yeah.
like crushes him.
Yeah. And then like he's got to like bounce back, and he's got to like properly train up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's got a
Punch
trade
Out. Be-
with Doc, man. It's got
Punch
a
Out would be a
yeah.
great
Let's do
movie.
it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh mate. Oh,
Punch out the rise of Little Mac.
Wario Land could be a good spin off for the Mario Brothers
Just
movie.
a Wario film in
Oh,
general.
but
I'd
Wario would
absolutely
be,
love.
you know what? Right, if they bring Wario back,
Wario.
they've got to get Charles Martinet the voice. Like like people can argue, oh, his Mario voice wouldn't work for cinema, but his Wario voice could work for cinema easily.
Okay, okay. If there's a Wario film that comes out, it just has to be him trying to get filthy rich
Yeah,
by
exactly.
scamming
Like
people.
that'd be so
He's
good.
great. Oh, he's great. I love a good film about like a scoundrel, like a
Yeah,
lovable scoundrel.
yeah,
Like he just scams people, he steals, and he's just like, yeah, man, I just want money. That's all I care about.
yeah.
And that's why we love Wario. He's great. We love him.
There's yeah, and like yeah, and there's so many other films. I just don't want a Smash Brothers movie. Like to me, Smash Brothers
That's,
they
that
don't make
could
any
happen.
sense. Like
You know when I just said that now, like I
yeah,
said it as a joke, but when I thought about it, I was like, oh my god, they would actually do that. That's
like oh
possible.
god, I saw somebody leave a comment on YouTube video once where they were like, "Oh, the My Brothers movie could have a post credit scene where he gets an envelope and it's got the Smash Brothers uh logo on it," and I'm like, "No,
I feel
no."
I feel so sorry for people like that because it's just like
Yeah,
their entire existence is revolves around these franchises, and it's just like, man, just I don't know, watch a foreign film with subtitles, do something
yeah,
different, just watch something
yeah,
different. Like this is advice I give to anyone: watch something different. Don't just watch the same stuff over and over again. Search for things, look for different things, because you'll be pleasantly surprised what kind of films you find out there.
mm,
Don't just watch Marvel films, for God's
yeah.
sake.
And it's just
What's your brain, man?
what other Nintendo franchises out there could get a movie? Well, obviously we talked about Zelda.
Zelda's the big one. I definitely think if the Mario Brothers film does well, Zelda's definitely
Zelda's
next on the
next. Yeah,
cards.
yeah.
Absolutely. Maybe then it'll go to Metroid because I feel like that's the other big one that people know.
Oh, F-Zero. They could do an F-Zero movie.
Oh, well, they did the F Zero anime. Don't forget
Yeah.
about that. Where
Falcon.
Yeah, man, where Captain Falcon jumps out and he punches that dude. And
Yeah.
I think it's called like I think the bad guy in that's called like Black
Oh
Shadow,
wow.
which is like the most corny yet most coolest villain name ever.
Yeah. I feel
Especially
like
when a Japanese guy says it.
F-Zero could be really cool. You could do like F-Zero and like I would actually like a live action F-Zero film. I think. To be fair.
If it's made a bit similar to the Speed Racer film, do you ever watch
Yeah.
the Speed Racer film?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I've like seen the Blockbuster Busters review of that. I've not like
Yeah,
actually watched the movie.
the Speed Race live action Speed Racer film is probably the closest I've ever seen like an anime be made into a live action film, and
Yeah.
actually it looking kind of good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still really cheesy, and
Mm.
it looks so bad,
Yeah.
but it's enjoyable. But the visuals are
Yeah.
still really enjoyable. Like it's a film that keeps you engaged because it was like it's actually just tries to look like the material it's based off of, which is quite a bold thing to do,
Yeah.
especially for like what was it,
2000,
2009?
2009 maybe
Let's have
2010.
a look. Let's have a look. Speed Racer movie. Here we go. 2008.
Wow,
Wow,
that was old.
what a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
What?
Well, you know who should play Captain Falcon in the in the F Zero
Nicholas
movie?
Cage.
No, no, no. Carl Urban,
Carlo.
who played
Yeah.
Judge Dredd.
Do you know what though? I just can't see him saying Falcon Punch,
Falcon Punch.
but Nicholas Cage saying Falcon Punch. Now that is possible.
Nick Cage.
He
That
probably just says that in general,
was.
like out of context. He's never played F Zero. That's just
Yeah.
the kind of thing he would
Do
say.
you know what, Marvel? If you're listening to this, you need to get Nick Cage as a villain. They
Yeah,
don't cast Nick Cage as a
Disney,
villain.
if you're wiretapping into this podcast right now
Yeah,
live,
like
understand that all the ideas we're creating are ours, and you
yeah,
may think that your horde of lawyers is going to stop me, and they probably will do,
yeah.
but I'm still going to fight to keep these ideas going.
But going on to Zelda quickly, like you said earlier, you wanted Zelda to be like a Studio Ghibli kind of movie.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean that. I feel like that would be the ideal fit.
yeah, I actually wouldn't mind them going live action a bit with Zelda. I feel like if you got the right filmmaker attached to it, you could definitely do a good kind of. You could. I feel like Zelda could definitely do good in the live action treatment. I think. Especially
I just can't see a real person wearing Link's hat.
that's you have to get around that somehow, but like.
You could just
uh,
give him the Breath of the Wild outfit, I guess.
True, but I would actually wouldn't mind if they actually did adaptations of like the games, like actually like if they made like an Ocarina of Time movie, for example, and say like they,
Uh,
but like it's all like each film's based on a different game.
yeah, I don't think I'd like them to specifically do films based off the games that have already happened, but if there was like a small film franchise that had each one be a different version of the
Yeah,
story, as it were, I'd be
yeah,
okay with that. I'd
yeah.
definitely be all right with that because at
You,
least then it would keep it fresh.
you could definitely like go into different kind of genres as well. Like Majora's Mask, for example, could be like a horror time travel movie of some kind. Because there are
Oh,
elements of horror in that game, and obviously it's all
there's
about.
absolutely there's absolutely no way that a studio will make Majora's Mask ever
Oh,
into a film. Absolutely no way. It is way too scary for children now. Like
uh,
that. Like I played that game when I was like 5 years old, and it terrified me.
oh
I
god.
loved it, but it terrified me. It is genuinely unsettling to even still now.
Ocarina of Time could be a like obviously like fantasy, but also have elements of time travel in there as well. Wind Waker could be like a Pirates of the Caribbean meets Indiana Jones kind of thing. Uh,
Are you aware of the Legend of Zelda mangas? Are you
yeah,
aware
yeah,
of that? Yeah,
yeah. I've got
because
the
they
Ocarina of
literally
Time one.
yeah, because they literally just did that with those. They just put them together on the games into manga form, and it
Yeah,
works surprisingly well. I've read
yeah.
them, and
I've read the Ocarina of Time one, and they do a good job at like taking the game and like, but they change things around, but they change the right things if that makes any sense. Like they
yeah,
I also find it quite odd, though. Speaking of those mangas, I find it quite odd how Phantom Hourglass, Four Swords Adventures, and Minish Cap all have mangas, but Wind Waker doesn't. And like, so they actually,
Wind Waker is still like back then when those mangas were being made was like kind of the black sheep of the series.
yeah,
It's only recently that it's kind of become like, oh, Wind Waker was actually great, and it's a game that still holds up because it still looks really good.
yeah.
In particular, like if you try to play Twilight Sword now, I mean, it looks like garbage,
Hmm.
and it's not a good game. Don't play it.
The Twilight Princess.
Yeah, I'm not a big
Yeah.
fan of that one.
That could actually could be like a good
That
kind of
could
like
be a good like entry point because it really reminds me of like Princess Mononoke.
yeah. But also like the genre for that could also have like elements of horror in there, but like be kind of like a
It'd be dark
like
fantasy. It'd be a
monster.
dark fantasy, really.
Yeah, like kind of like the Universal like monster movies, like the Wolfman or something, because Link obviously turns into a wolf in that movie in that game.
Yeah,
Um, so a Skyward Sword could probably just be like a romantic comedy. I can imagine. I can imagine Skyward Sword
I
going
don't
down
want
the
Skyward Sword, but I also do because Groose is in it.
route.
That game is terrible, but Groose is the best man.
The Groose is
He's
good.
so good.
Nick Cage's Groose. We gotta get Nick Cage's Groose.
He'd be way too old. Like he'd just
Yeah,
be
I
so
think
weird. He'd be hanging around a group of teenagers, and he'd
that's
just
the age
be.
of it. It'd be fine. No, I'm joking.
Man, it'd be weird.
And then you could also like have like you could do animated ones though. Like you could have like the was it like Minish Cap or Four Swords Adventures or Link's Awakening be kind of animated. Like they could take the animated form, like so like the more
Just
like
do them all. Just
minor
do
ones.
'em all.
But you could do all making them all animated.
Making them all animated.
Like
I want them all animated.
like Illumination. Have you take your hand anime? Why not? May as
I'm
well.
telling you, man, though, it has to be 2D animation.
Yeah,
It
that
has
could
to
be.
be
You know what?
traditional.
If they wanted to do something new, like Illumination could actually make it 2D. Like that could be like their first kind.
I will literally eat a hat if they do that.
Hmm.
I think that's so unlikely, Connor,
Yeah, that
that
is unlikely,
I will literally eat a hat if it happens.
but
I'm
like,
not kidding.
but if they wanted to like explore new things, I mean,
It is currently
yeah,
21:45 p.m. on the
yeah,
4th of March, 2023.
hmm,
If it's announced, I'll eat a hat.
yeah. All right.
There you go.
Um, but yeah, so Nintendo Cinematic Universe, we don't want that. Like, fuck that. Make it all stand alone. Make it all stand alone.
Yeah, just not everything needs to be a
Yeah,
franchise.
I miss the
Like
days when everything was standalone. Like we've got the new DC universe
is
coming,
that?
but it's like a that's weird though. That's like a soft reboot. Like things like apparently Aquaman's staying and Flash might be staying, but
Yeah, I'm so
Daredevil
glad
is
that they
going.
brought back Ezra Miller to play the
Yeah,
Flash.
yeah.
That fucking piece
I
of
don't know what's
shit.
going on with that. I don't care. I don't care about DC in general.
Ezra Miller eats people.
Yeah, from what I've heard,
I don't know if that's true, but
it probably isn't
I
true.
like to imagine he eats people.
Ezra Miller, if you're listening to this, please don't. Please
Ezra
don't.
Miller, it's allegedly he eats people. Allegedly,
God, there's some crazy rumors out there about people in Hollywood, man. Like
yeah, well, Hollywood's crazy, bro. Like there's stuff you
Hollywood's
don't know
crazy.
about behind the scenes, man. They're up to some weird stuff.
Yeah, perhaps some weird stuff. But making I miss the days of standalone movies. Do you know what I mean? Like I miss the days when movies were didn't always. We gotta set up this sequel. We gotta set up this cinematic universe. I miss the days when I could just watch a movie and not have to like.
I miss the days when movies were made by just like people with a vision
Yeah,
who were just like
exactly.
who just said like, "Ah, what's your next film idea?" I don't know. This is my next film idea. And they go, "All right, we'll make it and
Yeah,
see what happens." That's what I miss. I
yeah,
miss. I feel like studios now are so risk averse that they are literally just. That's another reason why they're sticking to like all these franchises because they know that it's kind of a guaranteed sell. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And it's kind of frustrating because you know that it's like the money that's going into these films could go towards making some genuinely great pieces of
yeah.
art, which
Like
Hollywood has
yeah,
produced over its time existing.
like
Uh,
like there's a film last year called Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't know if you've seen that.
oh, I have seen it, and
Yeah,
it is that film should win best picture.
it
I think
should.
it is the best. I think it is the best film that came
Yeah,
out of all the ones
mm,
that have come out there. It was genuinely a breath of fresh air. After I watched it, I felt like genuinely cleansed. I was like, oh my god, I've not seen a film that good in so long, and I was
mm.
just like, yeah, more of that, please.
Yeah, because I remember seeing like I remember because I saw I think it came out the same month as Multiverse of Madness, didn't it? The Doctor Strange
Something
one.
like that, yeah.
And I remember watching Multiverse of Madness before I went to see Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I was just there like, sorry, Sam Raimi, your film's cool, but this is the better multiverse movie.
I feel so sorry for Sam Raimi. I think he could have made a great Doctor Strange film, but
I feel like I
Marvel
feel
got in
like
the way.
I feel like because there was I said in the last episode there's a rumor that somebody said there was a scooper on Twitter that claimed they're trying to get Scott Derrickson back for the third Doctor Strange film, and I'm just like, nah, mate, stick with Sam Raimi, man. I prefer Sam Raimi's.
Just leave Sam Raimi alone. Let
Yeah,
him just do his thing.
just let him do
Let
his
him
thing.
just do it. Don't interfere with him. He'll make a great film. Sam Raimi is a old standard professional. He'll get it done
Sam
and he'll make
Raimi,
something
yeah,
great.
except for his Wizard of Oz film, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about.
Do you remember at the end of the Doctor Strange film when he gets the third eye pop out of his head?
Oh, that was creepy. To be fair,
And it seems like as if Doctor Strange has to deal with the consequences of his action, but
yeah,
then literally in the post
yeah,
credit scene, he's just walking around with it and is completely fine.
yeah. I think I mentioned.
Boy, I love
Yeah,
that. That's
yeah,
that was great.
that was great. Yeah, like yeah,
I love it when films do that. I love it when there's no consequence to people's actions and there's no payoff or pathos for people's for like things in films.
yeah.
Oh, but
Easter
that's okay.
eggs.
It's okay.
Oh god.
It's okay.
Um,
Good people don't make films anymore. Well, they do, but they just don't make them in Hollywood.
no,
They
yeah,
just make them in other places
yeah,
because they
like
know they're not going to be able to make their films.
yeah. We've got Robert Zemeckis making the Pinocchio remake, which I've not seen.
What?
Yeah, don't
Robert
you?
Zemeckis make that?
Yeah, Robert
Did he?
Zemeckis directed it. Yeah, he wrote
You mean the Disney one? I'm assuming.
Disney
Yeah.
one. Yeah, he directed it.
Oh my god, that film was terrible as well. It looks so bad.
Yeah,
God,
I've not
Robert
seen it.
Zemeckis, man. He's like to me, he's like almost Hollywood pedigree. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? A little bit. He's like Forrest Gump.
yeah,
Forrest Gump.
yeah.
Uh,
Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which coincidentally starred Bob Hopkins, who coincidentally starred in the
he
live
did,
action Mario Brothers
yes.
movie.
We were talking about the Mario Brothers movie at some point,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
know,
We just sort of was trailed
that's
off into
we
like
trailed off a bit, but that's fine.
yeah, that's
That's
fine.
okay.
I think we're pretty much at the end now, Alex. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
pretty much,
pretty
unless there's
much.
like one more thing, like any more you got to say about the upcoming Mario Brothers movie, or
I think it'll be fine.
yeah,
That's kind of my closing thoughts on it.
yeah,
I think it'll. I think I'll watch it. I'll come out of it and I'll go, yeah, that was fine, and then I'll probably move on with my day.
yeah,
And yeah, that's which is fine
mm,
as long as it. I don't think it'll be a terrible film. I don't think it'll be
no,
like groundbreaking, but I think it will make a lot of money,
yeah,
and I think it will open up a different doorway to an entirely new revenue of money that Hollywood will be looking to milk
yeah.
straight from the teat of Miyamoto.
I feel like as soon as that movie comes out, Hollywood's going to be in emailing me, murder, being like, "Hey, let's do a Metroid movie." It's like,
I
oh
think I don't even think just Metroid. I think in general, video
yeah,
game films are going to become way more
yeah,
common again,
yeah,
and they're gonna be like either really terrible or they're gonna be like mediocre.
yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting few years.
Yeah. Actually, I've actually got one more thing we could talk about if you want to.
Yeah,
Let's talk
sure.
about this Nintendo Pictures thing that's cropped
Nintendo.
up.
What did you just say? Nintendo
Nintendo Pictures, the production company they've
Pictures Production Company. I don't
the
think I've
animation
heard of
studio,
this.
yeah.
Oh, let's have a look. Here it is. The company was founded. Oh, it was formerly Dynamo Pictures. Is a Japanese
Yeah.
animation studio owned by Nintendo that develops visual content. So okay.
They're like
So the right. So it was founded in March 18. Right, cool. So there's so much information. So what is Dynamo Pictures? What did they do? Well, let's see what they did.
I think they worked on like a CG production for Ghost in the Shell. They've done like I think they do video game cutscenes mainly.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
it here now. So they've done like motion capture for like Persona 5, Monster Hunter, Near
yeah,
Replicant. Yeah, I see. Oh, so they also actually worked on they worked on some Pikmin short films and
yeah.
some Metroid Other Rem as well.
Mm.
Well, it
So
makes sense that Nintendo bought them.
yeah, so like, what does you think? What do you think about this? Is this like a? Do you think they're going to turn this into a film
What
and
could they
TV?
be up to?
Do you think this is like a film and TV production, or do you think this is
Um,
just going to stick with video game cutscenes, or do
it
you think?
depends. It depends really what they do, because they've got they've got a track record.
Yeah,
Um, of like working on like CG work and stuff and motion capture. So they could just stick to that. And now Nintendo's just like, oh well, we might as well just buy them
yeah,
because we've been using them for years.
mm,
Or it could be something bigger, but who
yeah.
knows?
It could be
Who
like,
knows?
who knows now? Who knows what Nintendo is up to? Those dicky buggers.
They're very secretive back there,
Yeah,
back over in Japan in the land of the East.
yeah.
They have many secrets,
God.
many crafty things. And Miyamoto
Hmm.
is not giving up anytime soon.
Oh God, no! That man is going to stay alive for as long as he can.
Yeah, man, he's gonna
God,
keep going,
keep going. Just keep going, Miyamoto. Keep going.
keep
Uh,
going.
keep going. Direct of a Mario game because you haven't done that since Mario 64.
Yeah, well, I think he's past that now, isn't he, Miyamoto?
Yeah.
How old is
Um,
Miyamoto?
but yeah, I guess that's pretty. We've been recording for like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, we have. We've been
Which it.
recording for a while.
So I think we should probably let's wrap this up. So
We will do,
yeah,
yeah.
you think My Bros will be fine? I'm really looking forward to it. I think the child in me will definitely. I feel like I'll definitely enjoy. I feel like this is one of my most it is one of my most anticipated movies of this year, just because I've wanted to see a Mario Bros movie since I was like a child, like about 4 or 5 years old, and this seems like the kind of film I would have loved when I was much little and much more younger. And I just feel like I owe it to my younger self to go see this film when it comes out in cinemas. So I definitely will be seeing it, not day one because I'll probably be working, but probably on a Friday or something.
Yeah,
But
probably.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to this movie. I think it should be a good time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Before we go again, Alex, what's the name of your studio that you're working on?
Oh, the studio that we're working on is called Jedinist Studios, and you can find it in the website if you type it in on Google.
I'll put a
That's
link
where
in.
you find it.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description for you, so don't worry.
Have you ever heard of Google, Tom? Connor. Sorry, in
Uh,
fact.
yeah, I've heard of Google.
Yeah, if you type things in, you can find things.
True,
In
yeah.
fact, I am the second. I'm the second thing on the search engine for Jedinist Studios.
Oh god.
There I am.
Oh no.
Weird.
Um, yeah. Your production company is it Sherwood?
Shedinist.
Yeah,
It
Sherwood.
is also a political movement and religion. No, I'm kidding. Of course.
Yeah. So if go visit their website. If you guys have any do you have a Instagram page, Facebook page, or
We do have a Facebook page. We've got LinkedIn as well. If anyone would like to go through there, we've
oh
also got a
nice.
YouTube channel that is
Yeah.
empty.
Yeah.
We've got an actual just website as well,
Mm,
so you can find our website if it's still up. I think
yeah.
somewhere. Maybe not. We'll see.
Mm,
If it is, I'll find it.
mm. No problem. And obviously, as I said in the last episode, but I'm going to say this again, I have my own website, ConnorO'Donnell.com. The name has changed since the last episode
Mm,
because Connor for Hire sounded a bit weird.
sounded a bit. I see. Yes, that's
Yeah,
understandable.
sounded a bit too weird. So the name's been changed. But obviously, like I said before, if you people love this podcast and like want to see more stuff, just please, you don't have to subscribe to this channel. You don't even have to like be a regular viewer here. As long as you share my website around to help me find more work in the film and TV industry, that's all I really care about.
Send us money.
Yeah,
Send us your money.
send us your money to my Patreon.
Send it through to his Patreon. No, we're going to have a Patreon.
Look at
We're going to have stretch goals. We're going to have it all.
Oh god. But yeah, you'll find all the websites in the description. You can visit them and everything. But Alex, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy evening to have a
Oh,
chat
no, no,
about
no.
Super Mario
Pleasure's
Brothers
all mine,
movie.
man.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be back again talking about the movie when it comes out next month on April 5th.
Oh, yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah, exactly. But until then, everyone, have a fantastic night and take care.
God bless you.